So I'm sat in Bordeaux Airport, waiting to fly out to Czech Republic to do some coaching work and to work with Roger. And I thought I'd pass the time. I've listened to Nick Luck's podcast. I have, of course, listened to the excellent SBK podcast with Tom Collins. And I was reading some Racing Post stuff, and I read Paul Keeley's piece where he bemoaned, quite rightly in my opinion, the sort of focus on the Cheltenham Festival. It's something I've spoken about plenty whenever I'm allowed to whoever will listen. I do think it's a great shame that some good graded races and some competitive handicaps get overlooked. But I do think that the Racing Post, not necessarily Paul Keeley, have got something to answer for there, because already it's all very Cheltenham focused. The yard tours are Cheltenham focused. ANTE-POST selections, Cheltenham focused. I love up in the Ante. I think Johnny Deneen's brilliant, as is David Jennings, but it starts to talk about Cheltenham a long way out, and it got me thinking that there's not often an awful lot of chat, anti-post chat, about some of the races through the season. And I wonder whether, actually, if there was a bit more anti-post chat about the Grimthorpe Chase or the Sky Bet Chase, whether actually it would generate more interest, and these races might become a bit more focused for the racing public, at least. Not that we're in control of field sizes. So I thought I'd have a look at the anti-post market for the Grand Sefton Chase, which comes up on the 11th of November at Aintree, over the big fences. It makes for quite interesting reading, I thought. So I thought I'd give you my thoughts of the Grand Sefton at this anti-post stage. So this is 9 days or so before the race itself. So probably start by giving you the market. It's headed by Nicky Henson trained City Chief at 6-1. Jaskiel, runner-up last year, is 7-1. Mombeg Genius, who's got that great Ultima handicap chase form from the Cheltenham Festival, is in at 8-1. Last year's winner, Al Dancer, is 10-1, as is Fantastic Lady, again from Nicky Henson Yard. She finished second over this course and distance in the top of last year. Il Rodotto is in at 12-1, and Cooper's Cross is 14-1, and it's 16-1 or bigger the rest. This is a race that can throw up repeat winners, or certainly a course that can throw up repeat winners. Horses tend to like these fences or not. In recent times we've had Ultra Gold has won a couple of times over these fences for the Tizard when ridden by Harry Cobden, and Mac Totti for the Bowens did the Grand Sefton and Topham double. So probably the best place to start is with last year's winner and last year's runner-up. Now, last year there was just a nose in it at the line. Al Dancer sort of clinging on really from the fast finishing Jaskiel, or the powerfully finishing Jaskiel. It was a fairly slow motion finish, and Al Dancer was giving him £11 on that occasion. He's now risen though from a mark of 144, which is what he won that off, to 154. He's got top weight at the moment of 12 stone if he were to run, and as a result Jaskiel would be £5 better off. I think Al Dancer is maybe an unlikely runner, I'm not sure. He came into this last year fresh, having not run for 200 plus days, whereas this year he's already had 2 starts. He won at Chepstow in impressive style, and then ran a really good race in the Old Roan at Aintree last weekend. But that was the Old Roan where unfortunately the fences came out at the home straight due to the low sun, so it was a real attritional test at that trip. Virtually the last half mile without fences, I think, put a huge emphasis on stamina, and they certainly, to my eye, finished tired. And I just wonder whether that's going to be an ideal prep with just a 13-day turnaround into this. Conversely, Jaskiel has come back this season. He started his season in Auteuil in September, won on soft ground over there over 2 mile 6. He is £5 higher. I can see the appeal of him but the fact of the matter is he did struggle in this race, or in the Topham over this course and distance at the Grand National meeting, off a marker 140, and that was on soft ground. Now there might well be a difference between winter soft ground and spring soft ground, but I just wonder whether, you know, he's going to be the answer, whether he's not vulnerable to something perhaps a little more unexposed. Monbeg Genius would be the next obvious place to look, but he's entered this weekend at Ascot. I think that would make him a very unlikely runner in this, unless Ascot is caught up in the storm that is going to hit the UK this weekend, in which case he might be a runner, but I think this trip is probably sharp enough for him. I'm sure they want to give him experience over the fences, because I'm sure they've got the Grand National as a target, but I think the Beecher Chase might be a more logical stop for him. He's definitely a well-handicapped horse. That Ultima Chase form behind Corrit Rambler and Fast or Slow is looking like a really good piece of form. City Chief, who heads the market for Nicky Henderson, I think he still looks to have scope off this mark of 142. I think he needs to put a line through his run at Ayr at the back end of the season. He's definitely better than that. When the ground was just a bit lively, I'm not sure. He has got form on good ground, but he's definitely better than that. I was disappointed with him at Ayr, and think he can do better. But he's only had 4 chase starts, and he did make a calamitous error on his first chase start at Exeter. Then went to Hereford and jumped really well and won in impressive fashion, but just at 1 or 2 he was a bit fiddly. So he is in essence a good jumper, but he was very keen at Hereford, and it was that keenness that sort of ran him into trouble a couple of times. He's going to come here fresh, and for me I just wonder whether that's not a great sort of combination, going to the Aintree fences fresh with just 4 chases behind you. I could just see him perhaps struggling to cope with this jumping test at this stage of the season. For all that I think a marker 142 underestimates him, and I'm certain he'll pop up in some good handicaps later this season. The other Henderson horse, Fantastic Lady, she won out first time out last season, and then ran really well in the Topham. Travelled very powerfully down to the last, challenged going away from the last to the elbow, and actually got ahead of Bill Baxter, the eventual winner, and then a loose horse ran between the pair of them, and she probably came off slightly worse, getting bumped by the loose horse, but flashed her tail up the run-in. Bill Baxter looked more resolute in the finish. Whether she didn't stay or whether she is just a little bit marish, I wonder whether in hindsight, and hindsight, let's remember, is the foresight of a gobshite, but I wonder in hindsight whether Nico would perhaps, if he had that ride again, have hung on to her a bit longer and perhaps let Bill Baxter drag him past the elbow and challenged halfway up the run-in. So she is certainly of interest. She's not handicapped out of this, but I'm just not convinced she would stay. So for me, the selection at this stage at 14-1 would be Cooper's Cross. He was really progressive last season, apart from one poor run in the Grimthorpe Chase, where it was later found that he bled from the nose, so I think that's a perfectly reasonable excuse there. So put a line through that one. And he was travelling really well in the Topham. Looked to be enjoying it, jumped for fun under Ryan Manuel on that occasion, normally ridden by trainer's son Sam Coulthard, but was jumping beautifully, travelling really sweetly, and then got jumped across at 4 out and came down. Now that is of course too far out to say what would have happened, but he certainly was enjoying the unique fences. He was travelling kindly, and he showed no ill effects from that fall, and came out just a week later at Ayr and ran a huge race to finish second in the Scottish National, coming from a long way back off the pace, finished very powerfully behind that wonderful horse Kitty's Light. So he's still well handicapped, I think. I think he's a progressive horse. I have a slight concern over Sam Coulthard as a jockey, and it's often frowned upon to say you don't like a jockey, or it's not don't like, it's just sometimes he seems to do things that you slightly wonder why. It has sort of a brain freeze moment, but he is young, he is getting plenty more experience. He's won on this horse, you know, he He rode this horse to his biggest victory ever at Doncaster. So it is only a mild concern. But in a race where experience and fine margins matter, that would just be the negative for me. But at around about 14 to 1, I think Cooper's Cross has got plenty going for him. You know he's going to stay well. He certainly won't mind the soft ground. And at this stage, for me, he's the most interesting one in the lineup. I hope you enjoy this. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you've got a selection for this race. Let me know if there's any other races that you'd like me to look at from an anti-post point of view. Let's try and stay away from the C word, the Cheltenham. As ever, please do hit a like on this, hit a subscribe, and I'll see you on Monday for the Monday Breakfast review.